where who's to blame if something goes wrong? Me.
Yeah.
Who can I get angry at? Me.
Yeah.
I'd be out on the golf course or in the net when someone scored, and I would destroy myself. And that was the only place I could release it.
Yeah.
And I would take it out against me because it was never okay to voice it to anyone.
Yeah.
So when you work through this process, that's what you realize is I picked this job, this relationship, this hobby, whatever. You're like, oh my God, he's right. So
yeah, I mean, a couple things. First, I was listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he's talking about how he went through depression. He did all these drugs and everything, and then eventually he started to realize and started talking to a couple of professionals that have been researching it. And a lot of what depression is just lack of control, lack of feeling of control.
Yeah.
And as you were talking about that, I was thinking about, what was I running from? And I think part of what I was running from was my loneliness. Because I kind of grew up as an only child, always, kind of isolated, on my own way, which I enjoy, which if we look at how I live now, that's what I want. That's what I like, apparently, right?
Yeah.
And it's having that control over it too. Like in the race too, similar to you, I'm alone. Football's pretty good at it, but I decided to do that. I'm going to do track. I'm going to get really good at track because it's me. There's a team, but what really comes down to is a really individual sport. I'm racing against myself and my personal record, and anytime.
And that you can control.
Exactly.
Did you hear what you said? Your personal record is about you.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah. So that absolutely
perfect. Even just think of the word depression.
Mm-hmm.
Depressed. What does that mean? Who I am as a person is depressed, pushed down. I'm not walking in who I am. That's the essence of powerlessness.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't allowed to be. People who are depressed is basically weren't allowed to be themselves. So their personality, their core, their essence has been depressed.
Yeah.
They don't know how to walk in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they shut down. And the other thing, you mentioned living alone and the way you live. The other thing you have to learn, or I had to learn, was our brain seeks what it knows. It doesn't know right from wrong. Well, your brain knew loneliness. It's what you were raised with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the domestic abuse survivor, we all scream, why wouldn't you just leave? Well, their brain, literally, just the mere suggestion of leaving sends them into fight, flight, or freeze. They shuts down the blood to the front part of their brain. They can't. Mm-hmm. And because it doesn't feel right.
Right.
And so if you lived in a commune, your brain's going, whoa, you'd be in massive fight, flight, or freeze until you could retrain your brain. There's a way to do it.
Of course.
But that's why this would be more comfortable for you and feel right. Mm-hmm. So that's why I talk about it. A lot of people think they're following their gut instinct, but I've discovered there's a difference, what I call the trauma gut and our true gut instinct.
Yeah.
Most of us just follow and we think our gut instinct is what guides us, but we're just repeating our trauma.
Have you read the book Thinking Fast, Slow?
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal book.
Sounds good.
It's all about heuristics and cognitive biases, and how a lot of what people think is intuition is actually a false sense of intuition.
Yeah.
It's actually these patterns because we're pattern recognition beings.
Yeah.
It's us analyzing patterns in a very quick way, and they're often very incorrect.
Yeah.
Unless you really know your cognitive biases, you know where they are, and you're very experienced in a certain thing. For the most part, your instinct isn't correct. Your intuition. Yeah.
I have to, my clients, in a sense, break down their gut instinct and get it working for them, because their gut instinct works against them.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to find that.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest step, is what I've seen in this field is to talk about it,
mm-hmm.
but not the pathway to discover it and get out of it. That's
mm-hmm.
the biggest thing lacking.
Oh, totally. 100%.
The plan.
Yeah. And I'm only starting to do it thanks to you. I mean, I've been doing that Byron Katie work, reading your book.
She's amazing.
All of that.
Should check
100%. Already I can feel it.
Yeah.
I feel work. I've been doing those worksheets every day.
Yeah.
And it's just
it's insane when you start to find you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been having some wild dreams.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you would. Because when you're breaking down your denial, so you're starting to get closer to finding who you really are.
Yeah. That's what one I had 2 nights ago. Whoa, man. Whoa. But that's for another conversation. Let's kind of get into what's been your experience as being a parent, and how is it different from that initial point when you had your child to where it is today?
I'm still a horrific parent. I mean, I've learned. I know all the things to do, but because of how neural pathways work, because of how the brain works, I'm 52 now, and I feel like if I were to have a kid now, an infant, 40, 50% of the time, I could be a good parent. It is a horrifically difficult job with absolutely no training. Totally. Now, I had done a lot of work when I had my kids, but I would have that same dismissive feeling, even attitude with my kids that my father had, even though like I said, logically, it's how neural pathways work. Yeah, and people sit there, their kid's born, and they go, I'll never treat my kid like my mom or dad. And the second they all of a sudden hear their voice watching their voice go, oh my God, that's my mom and dad talking. How did that happen? And so I did a lot of that. Now I'm pretty good with my kids. I've learned about codependency and enmeshment and the typical parenting dynamic that we have. That's what we think is loving parenting is horrifically abusive. And I'm pretty good now at, I like who I am as a parent now. But my kids are 17 and 21.
Real quick.
And 23.
That's a tough thing for people to digest, right?
Yeah.
Right. And how would you maybe help people take that in? Like, that what do you think you're parenting now is horrible parenting? Like, doing everything you're trying to do to help your kids, and it's kind of like giving them all they want. How do you help them kind of take that in? And what are some ways to maybe...
First of all, you're not to blame. I had to learn that from my counselor. As I started to discover myself, I went, oh my God, I'm horrific in all these areas. And he taught me, he said, Kenny, you're not to blame. You can only do what you know. Well, people out there listening, this is all you know. So you're not to blame, but there are consequences you're responsible for. So the way that came up with was in the divorce. I cheated on my first wife, and so felt all this tremendous shame. And it's like, you're not to blame. I won't get into all of that. And it's like, look, you were using an operating system to survive. It's all you knew. Now, it doesn't absolve you of the responsibility. If you're going through a divorce, you're going to pay money. You have all these consequences. You're not absolved of that.
Right.
But here's the key, Kenny. Now that you know, you can be to blame. So people listening now, this may be the first time you've heard it. Well, from this point forward, that is the first time you ever have a chance to go out and learn about parenting. If you choose not to, then you can accept blame because you chose to ignore it. So that's the distinction, because a lot of people I don't want to know that I'm bad. And so they avoid it and they create the bad they never wanted to do. Then 30 years later, why didn't I just go do it? And so that's the thing so it's letting them know you are truly off the hook. And that tends to drop them enough where they're like, oh my God, I'm not a horrible person. Yeah, I'm open to learning a little bit. And so that's the first step. And the second step is a story I love to tell. Everybody out there, and I ask this question all the time, would you let me cut your hair? No. Why not? Because you don't know how. So you want someone who's taken a class or has a license? Yeah, I don't want anyone getting near my hair unless they're skilled. And I go, isn't that fascinating? That your hair, something that no matter how badly I butcher it, will grow back perfectly on its own. You want me to not just take a class, but have a license, but to be a parent, have a relationship, right? You don't expect anything. And if I even suggest it to you, I know thousands of people listening to this are defensive. I don't need to. No, I know. I watch my parents. Well, who taught them? They didn't take a class either.
They don't see the cycle that keeps perpetuating.
Exactly.
Pass on through generations.
And we have this bias against looking at ourselves and when it comes to parenting, relationships, and emotions, and that's what's killing us all. And so it's that denial of recognizing Yeah, not to blame, I don't know. Think of every single thing you do in your life. Play sports, go to school, your career. You take a class. You have to learn it before you can do it.
Right.
But the most essential skills in life.
It gets me every time.
And people get defensive.
I know, right?
At the mere suggestion of it. That breaks my heart.
Right.
I mean, I don't judge them. It breaks my heart that's the reaction. And that's what I'm trying to bring.
It's just so clear that the only skills maybe they should teach in school is communication, relationship management, probably parenting, and financial management. Yeah. Right? Personal finance.
Life skills.
Yeah. Like the core things you need to survive. Like you can go and find a job somewhere. But if you can't manage these things, you're not going to manage that job very well. And then the rest of your life, the people that you're engaging with, which is really the key to figuring out how to live a happy, fulfilled life. Yeah. Like really it comes down to the quality of connections you have, meaningful relationships.
And the connection with yourself first.
Yeah.
The reason people don't want to look at their parenting and their relationships is because then they'd have to look at themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's the greatest thing we don't teach. Yeah. We don't teach how to become self-aware and confront our denial. And that's the epidemic in society is denial. Denial is the single greatest killer out there. Right. Because we're not aware that we're doing it. Mm-hmm. And we're doing it to ourselves and that we are the problem. We have propagated and rewarded and created a society that celebrates the victim, empowers the victim. Mm-hmm. And that's why we all choose to be the victim.
Especially the PC culture.
It's
even worse. Never before.
All of it. Yeah. All of it is. Yeah. Think of what happens when you're sick, hurt, have a bad relationship, racism, I don't care what it is. Pick your topic. Yeah. If you're the victim, everyone comes to you have complete power over everybody. Yep. And that's why we do it. We get rewarded so heavily. Look at politics, all of it. It's all about playing the victim. And we support that, we condone it, we teach it. And that's what's killing everybody. It's a false construct. Yeah. And nobody's been willing to challenge it, and that's kind of where the void I want to step into.
So going a little more denial. One, how would you define denial, and maybe like an example of denial?
Yeah. Well, to me, there are three facets. What I've discovered, there are three facets to denial. The first of which is that whenever you hear somebody judge, blame, or criticize, they're talking about themselves. Now, there's a distinction. If, for instance, like this, I could say, yesterday when I was at your house at your podcast, you were a selfish son of a, okay? Well, you separate out fact. Was I at your house? Did I do the podcast? Yes, that's true. Now, the second you drop into anything emotional, so if you out there have ever, I talk about this in a book, I showed the example of a text message between ex-spouses. The second you drop into emotional content, you are talking about yourself. Here's a wonderful example, politics. I'm an equal opportunity denial confronter. What do Republicans like to say? Oh, those mamby-pamby, snowflake, emotional Democrats, right? They're just a bunch of wimps emotionally. What are they using to describe Democrats? Nothing but emotion. What that tells me is growing up, it was not okay for them to express emotions. So they're talking about themselves. Sean Hannity is perfect. He rails on the emotionality of Democrats as he's being overly emotional about it. Yeah, he's massively snowflakey emotional as he does it. He's talking about his own inability to handle his emotions, not Democrats. Right. Now, Democrats, conversely, what do they say about Republicans? Oh my God, the snobby, rich, money-hungry, selfish Republicans, all they care about is money. Right. Well, what's the whole Democratic platform? We're going to take your money and we're going to decide how to redistribute it. Right. They're all about money. Yeah. They're talking about themselves. Yeah. That's all they care about is money. Exactly. They want to control it. So those are perfect examples. So what that is, now we get into the two other pieces of denial. Denial is about a denial of ourselves. And so the recovery from denial and why people stay in denial is one, look at what I'm asking you to confront. You have a false belief about Republicans or Democrats, whichever side you're on.